Hi everybody, thank you for watching. In this video we're going to continue on showing you some different examples of do nows and exit slips you can use in your class. But we're also going to start to show you how to use data gathered in these do nows and exit slips to identify misconceptions that your students have.
How to use a quiz to drive a discussion. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a quiz in the assessment section of the LMS or Google Forms. Or we could even use an in-class option, which we'll talk about later. If you want to use an assessment or create an assessment in the LMS on OnCourse, please take a look at the video that we provide under this section that is from the OnCourse University that explains how to make an assessment. We could also use a Google form to make the quiz, and that would be sufficient to do what we need to do. Alright, so we're going to go out to Google, and we're going to go up to Google Docs, and we're going to make our do now or exit slip by clicking on a blank document. You could title this whatever you want. I'm going to title it do now or exit slip for photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a topic that a lot of students struggle with in my course. So in my Google Doc, I titled this photosynthesis do now exit slip. Now I'm going to go ahead and make some multiple choice questions or true and false questions in this document that I'm going to be able to use later. Remember, true and false questions are simply multiple choice questions when you put A as true and B as false. So you could work. So I've created some photosynthesis questions that will give me an idea whether or not my students understand the main content topics within photosynthesis.
So once you've got your quiz created, the next step is to figure out an electronic method of accessing the data from that quiz and assessing the data to look for whatever misconceptions your students have. And there's a lot of programs that allow you to do this. One example of sample data you could get, this particular one is from a program called Flubaroo that automatically grades a Google form. This is the type of thing you would probably do at the end of a class, so that evening or that afternoon you could examine this, determine what the misconceptions were amongst the students, and decide what you're going to do the next class period. And when you're looking at a table like this, usually just a quick glance tells you which questions had the most misconceptions. Here it's these middle two had the lowest percentage of students getting them correct. So as a teacher, that tells me that the following class period we need to focus on these a little bit more before moving forward.
If you don't feel comfortable with the electronic way of getting data, that is perfectly okay. I'm going to give you a different option, and this is just one that, it doesn't take a lot of time to prep, and it really gets the job done, and the students seem to like it. Alright, so I used a very simple math problem to help me get this method across. What is 1 plus 1? And I gave the 4 options there. And then, as you can see, there's a board, or it could just be a piece of paper that's in front of each student. And what they'll do is they'll write down which answer they thought it was, and they'll give it a numeric value. And usually I just put the scale up on the board. 1 means that they really don't know the answer and they're just taking a complete guess, to 5, they're very confident that they know that they're right. So in this case, 2 of the students chose A. 1 was extremely confident. 1 was, I'm kind of stuck between 2 answers. And then the third person had no clue and was guessing. So this gives you some direct feedback, very immediate feedback to the question at hand. As a teacher, you're going to want to note which questions gave the students the most trouble. And then at the end, what you would do is you would readdress those questions by moving on to the third step.
And that third step could be any number of activities to let the students address those misconceptions. Probably the best one would be some sort of a small group discussion based on those questions that gave the students the most trouble.
One of the best ways that I most enjoy getting kids to have productive discussions are to break them into small groups and assigning each group one question that the class struggled on. Each member of that group would be responsible for understanding the correct answer, and also they're responsible for being able to explain it and give supporting details why that is the correct answer. Once each student can do that, what I would do as a teacher is walk around, make sure that each group has the right answer and that they're able to explain it, and then I would mix up those groups so there's representation of each question in each one of the new groups. At this point in time, we have 5-6 people in a group. They each were responsible for a question, and then they do a share around the group. So they'll go over each one of the questions with each student taking turns being the teacher and also the student learning. So this is a good way to get to generate a very good small group discussion.
So the only thing you have to do now is give this a try for yourself. Some good steps to follow in order to do that are: first, identify a topic that you know your students typically struggle on in your class. Then you need to actually create the quiz that's going to address that topic. This should be an online quiz, either a Google form or an on-course LMS quiz. You can also just use a Google Doc so it's easily transferable and used at a later date. As you're creating the quiz, make sure that all your questions are in a multiple choice form so the data is easy to analyze. And after that, you're pretty much ready to go. Thank you very much for watching. Now go blend something.